Imagine for a moment that everything you struggle with, every fear, every self-doubt, every hidden impulse you pretend not to feel, isn't an obstacle meant to be conquered, but a map quietly pointing you toward your purpose. What if the key to understanding who you are lies not in the polished image you show the world, but in the very parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime trying to bury? Carl Jung called this hidden terrain the shadow, the unconscious side of the psyche that contains everything we reject, fear, or refuse to see. Yet paradoxically, the shadow is not our enemy. It is our missing half, the dark soil where the seeds of meaning are planted. Jung believed that inside every person lives a divided self, the conscious identity that wears the mask of acceptance, and the shadow that holds what that mask cannot contain. It's the anger we suppress to appear kind, the envy we disguise as moral superiority, the desires we silence to seem pure, but the shadow never disappears. It seeps through dreams, slips out in arguments, echoes through our judgments of others. Every time you say, "I can't stand people like that," you are often meeting a disowned piece of yourself. Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Your shadow speaks in these moments, not to shame you, but to show you where you are blind. Most of us try to hold our darkness under the surface, like a beach ball pressed under water. We smile, stay productive, stay positive, but the harder we push it down, the more violently it returns, through anxiety, resentment, exhaustion, or self-sabotage. Jung warned that whatever remains unconscious will later appear in our life as fate. The shadow we refuse to face doesn't disappear. It organizes the events of our lives until we finally listen. So the question isn't whether you have a shadow. The question is whether you'll dare to meet it consciously or continue to let it steer you in the dark. Every myth hides a psychological truth. In each hero's journey, there's a descent, a confrontation with the monster in the cave. Hercules faced the beasts of his own rage. Luke Skywalker saw his own face beneath Darth Vader's mask. These aren't stories about external villains. They are metaphors for the inner battle each of us must face. The moment we stop running from our own reflection. When you finally turn toward the darkness, you begin the process Jung called individuation, the integration of the self into wholeness. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. The first step of shadow work isn't dramatic. It's awareness, the quiet noticing of your emotional reactions, that sharp irritation when someone boasts, that jealousy you feel toward a friend's success, that fear that rises when someone gets too close. These reactions are signposts. They point toward buried beliefs, unhealed wounds, and forgotten desires waiting to be acknowledged. Instead of asking, "Why are they like this?" ask, "What part of me is being reflected here?" This question transforms irritation into revelation. Each trigger becomes a doorway to freedom. Awareness alone isn't enough. The shadow doesn't vanish because you recognize it. It softens when you accept it. Acceptance isn't indulgence, it's the courage to look without flinching. You don't have to act on every impulse or justify every flaw. You simply stop lying to yourself about who you are. When you bring honesty to your darkness, it loses its power to manipulate you from below. You no longer react unconsciously, you respond with awareness. This is where the alchemy begins, turning what once felt poisonous into medicine. Jung often asked his patients to speak with their shadow, to treat it as a voice deserving to be heard. You might try it yourself. Sit quietly and ask, "What are you protecting me from? What do you need me to understand?" At first, what you hear might surprise or disturb you, but soon that voice becomes less threatening. It starts to sound like an old part of you that only ever wanted to be seen. The goal isn't to silence your shadow, it's to integrate it, to let it join the conversation of your life rather than whisper from the dark. Our relationships are laboratories for shadow work. Every person who triggers us is an unwitting teacher of our unconscious. The partner who makes you feel small may be forcing you to face your hidden need for validation. You can't stand might embody the confidence you've repressed. Instead of repeating old patterns of blame, you can use each emotional clash as data, evidence of what within you still seeks wholeness. This doesn't mean tolerating harm or staying in pain. It means recognizing that your reactions are often messages from within, not verdicts about others. Each relationship, whether peaceful or chaotic, is a mirror polished by friction. The shadow doesn't just contain pain, it hides power. The energy you use to suppress emotions is the same energy that can fuel creativity. Anger can become courage. Jealousy can become inspiration. Fear can become clarity. Frida Kahlo turned her suffering into color. Martin Luther King Jr. transformed outrage into justice. Jung himself painted his visions and discovered symbols that mapped the human soul. When you stop fearing your emotions, you reclaim the energy trapped beneath repression. You stop being drained by pretending and start being lit by purpose. We spend years searching for purpose in careers, goals, or ideals, believing meaning is something to find. But Jung suggested that purpose is something we uncover. It's not waiting out there, it's waiting in here. Your purpose is the unique way you express your wholeness in the world. It includes your wounds as much as your talents. The very thing you once saw as weakness often contains the direction of your calling. Someone who has felt unworthy may dedicate their life to helping others see their worth. Someone who has known rage might build movements that heal injustice. Your shadow marks the path, if you have the courage to follow it. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. To make the darkness conscious, you must be willing to be vulnerable. To say, yes, I am afraid. Yes, I've been jealous, angry, ashamed. And yet I am still worthy of love and belonging." Vulnerability dismantles the walls between you and life. It frees you from the exhausting performance of perfection. When you reveal yourself fully, you stop being a divided person. You become whole. And in that wholeness, you find peace. Not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of authenticity. Jung believed our work with the shadow isn't only personal, it's collective. Each time an individual integrates their darkness, humanity evolves. Because projection doesn't just happen between people, it happens between nations, ideologies, and cultures. When we deny our own capacity for cruelty, we create enemies to carry it for us. Wars begin where introspection ends. But when we own our darkness, we break the cycle of projection. We stop adding to the world's unconsciousness and begin contributing to its healing. Shadow work, then, is not self-help. It is soul work. A quiet revolution of awareness that ripples into everything we touch. To integrate the shadow is not to erase it. It's to stand in the middle between light and dark and say, both are me. When you stop running from half of your nature, you reclaim your full humanity. You stop chasing enlightenment and start embodying it. Integration gives birth to a deeper kind of freedom. Not freedom from the shadow, but freedom through it. Because the parts you feared most become the compass guiding you home. Imagine if you could look at your life and see every mistake, every wound, not as evidence of failure, but as chapters of initiation. The shadow is the teacher disguised as pain.
It asks only that you listen.
It doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to make you whole. So when the darkness rises, don't turn away. Ask it, what are you here to show me? Listen carefully, because that voice might be the very thing that reveals the purpose of your life. Because in the end, your shadow isn't the enemy. It's the guardian of your truth. And the moment you face it, you begin to live as the person you were always meant to become.